Radiating from the heart of America and stretching from coast to coast and border to border, welcome to On Radio, the wireless industry's weekly download coming straight from the builders and newsmakers of everything wireless. Your host is Jim Tracy, and this is On Radio.
Hey, and welcome back to On Radio, our wireless family. We are coming to you live from the West today. Have a really cool guest, been on before, and actually is going to talk about some stuff and some upcoming future plans. And I'm super excited to welcome a guy I've known for, I'm thinking, 20 years to the podcast, Justin Miller from formerly ET Tower, now Ontivity. Welcome, buddy. How you doing?
Fantastic, Jim. Thanks for having me on. Oh, welcome our phone.
I'm super excited to have you on because we're going to talk about things that are important to me, like maybe going hunting and fishing and taking some time off and stuff like that. We recently had some experiences together out in Washington, D.C., a.k.a. the Swamp. And we dealt with our legislators and our regulators and the kind of folks that affect the lives of our climbers and our people. And Justin is one of the original guys who understands that your people are my people, and my people are your people, so they are people. And we have a task and an obligation to take care of our folks. So, first of all, dude, I want to go on vacation. What are you going to do about that? How are you going to help me?
How am I going to help you? Well, strategies, right? Like last time we talked, it's all about setting yourself up for success, whether you're going to a hotel or you're planning your next meal. It really comes down to, what do you want to do? What do you want to obtain? If you're single and looking for an adventure, are you trying to go river rafting down the Arkansas? Are you trying to scale a mountain? Are you trying to go hunting in a specific location? Everything comes down to
Arkansas. That's the duck hunting capital of the world.
You got it. That's right. I have duck hunted in Arkansas, which was phenomenal. I've never seen so much like wildlife, like in the air, like thousands of birds just constantly flying over. It was amazing. But yeah,
now that we got that settled, you can continue.
Yeah, strategy in planning for vacations is all about you got to have a budget. You got to have an understanding where you're going to go. And there's really creative ways for us to travel, like especially if you're like riding solo. Now, if you got a wife and 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, I'm not going to lie, like that strategy becomes extremely expensive and you need to work really, really hard to be able to strategize to do RV camping and tent camping and let's go sleep underneath the stars style. So
you can't just throw the kids in the back of the truck anymore, can you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can.
No, you can. I can.
I can. I totally have camped in the back of my truck. I totally am like, all right, kids, we're gonna camp right here, and we're like, camp. We don't have a tent, and I was like, you got a sleeping bag, and I got a truck bed, and we're going sleeping. So, but no, I've obviously been a big hunter all my life, and so like I chose very strategically in my life. Like I'm gonna plan every 2 years to do a hunt, to do an adventure. And so like, that's what it took. Like, it wasn't like this weekend warrior process of like, oh, I'm going to go out this weekend and I'm going to go do this adventure. I would have like a goal. I would have a goal of what I want to go see, what I want to go do. I'd pick that goal and I would find every outlet of how do I do it? Economically, what do I do? And so strategy, session, and vacation planning go hand in hand. With tower
establishing
hands,
priorities about what's really important for you and the fam, right? There you go. For sure.
And then there is a level of spontaneity that I have always had in certain trips. Some of the most amazing adventures that I've ever gone on, I just had a certain dollar amount in my pocket and I picked the direction and I drove. And I drove until I found.
That's pretty cool.
I found beaches, or I drove from Colorado to California to Oregon, all on break. Right back in my era, not that necessarily it's the same way today, but we would go 6, 8, 9 weeks out, and then you'd take like a week and a half break. We don't necessarily do that today, but I kind of planned it that way. But you could plan it the same way but I would just
Sure.
pick a direction and I'd start driving, and I didn't have anybody with me. I just had like, 4 changes of clothes and, a backpack, and I would go adventuring, and I would just like find myself in unique places, and I had a blast.
Route 66, man.
And just go for it. So,
Wow.
how about
That's
you, Jim?
cool.
Did you ever, like, in your youth, think about from a vacationing standpoint before wife and kids, right? What's something you did that would have been in that same line?
I got married when I was 20 years old. So I had my first kid when I was 21 or ish, something like that. So
Yeah.
my vacations were so self-centered that they were virtually irrelevant, and fun was described in a different fashion. So we'll walk away from those. But, we as a family, we never really took a lot of vacations until we were literally in the tower business. And then it became really important for us to spend time with family. And so it would be a lot of times we would go back to the Dakotas where we're from and spend some time with a large extended family there. And that was always cool. And it always had some, it always had a shotgun around it. So that was, or a fishing pole. And that was pretty cool. But I remember the one that I remember the most is I was in a business where they took us all to Hawaii because of a milestone that we met, and we were able to save enough money to have our kids come with us for the first week, and then Sarah and I were there for a second week, like meetings and stuff, and that was just rock star stuff. But that's the kind of trip you plan for like 3 years.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I, growing up in the tower industry with mom and dad having a company and everything, you sparked memories there because our vacations were job sites in certain regions of the world. And then you would go there, hang out in the truck, and then dad would work and mom would be like, okay, we're going to go look at this monument. We're going to go look at this museum. We're going to go look at this beach, this park, whatever it was. And then dad would join us on the weekend. And
then we're going to barbecue.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We grilled all the time. All the time. It was great. I loved it. It was phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that strikes me is that our folks, in large part, they travel a lot anyway. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, maybe the appropriate part is a staycation.
Yeah, you're totally right.
I mean, sometimes I just want to go home, man.
Yeah. It's like you go out on the road or working or whatever, just normal, and you come home and your wife's like, so where you want to go to dinner tonight? And you're like, like here? Like I want to eat
bologna sandwich. I want to go to the bologna sandwich restaurant.
I don't care. I don't want to have to see a waiter or a waitress and they screw up my order. I want to like walk over here and make a sandwich or pull out a bag of chips and like take my socks off and rub my feet in my backyard. Like whatever that may be.
Okay, we're getting a little too personal now. But because I don't want to picture you rubbing your feet in your backyard.
Dude, you got to try that, grounding yourself. That's what that's all about. You ever heard of that?
Grounding myself? No.
I'm not kidding.
Step in dog poop.
Nope. This is no BS. Okay, this is a real thing, Jim. So if you travel a lot, I know you and I are on planes a lot. We're flying. We're going state to state, and your internal clock can kind of get messed up. I have learned this trick, and it actually comes from like a bunch of different outlets, and I'm not going to go down that path, but when I get to my destination, right? Like if I fly, like next week, I'm flying to Fort Lauderdale for the Utility Telecom conference and to attract our utility customers. And the first thing I do, I'm not kidding. This is the first thing I do. When I land, I usually try to find a park if I have time. And I go to a park. I take my socks and my shoes off and I rub my feet and it grounds you. Literally like your internal grounding system works. And all of a sudden you feel energized. And I've been doing this for about, 10 years. And it totally works. Like,
wow.
When Brian Bickness listens to this, he's like, dude, he's right. He does this. I've been doing it too. It totally works. It might be all foo-foo in my head, and that's okay because I feel great.
Do. I think you're completely a flake now, but I'm going to try it.
You're going to try it, and you're going to go. And you got to like, all right, there's a process, Jim. Like, you don't need to be on the phone. Don't be talking to somebody. Like, be as by yourself as possible.
Yeah.
And just walk over to any good patch of grass and dirt that you can find Don't go in a thorny bush or whatever. Get
Dude,
grass and dirt.
you are such a Gen Xer now. You just label
Dude,
yourself
just try
forever.
it. You try it.
This is my millennial friend Justin.
You try it. You try it. All right. Cowboys in the West, when they went across, when they took their boots off at night and they took their socks off to dry them out,
gosh,
they did this
so bad.
They did that naturally because it was a natural thing, and that's actually where it came from. Was in the Old West, how people would like calm themselves down because they didn't have a shrink out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
they had good old earth, and rub your daggum toes in the earth, and you felt great. And hey,
awesome.
It works. Try it.
All right. Well, okay. So we're going to move along now out of this discussion because people are going to think that they're going to owe us a therapy fee. But I'm convinced that the vacation that I really wanted to talk about was me going on vacation. And so one of the introductions we're going to make is that when I'm gone, there's this flaky dude from the Rocky Mountains. Yeah, that guy. And he's going to guest host for me. And we've always been an advocate at all of our family companies that you need to train your replacement. And I've just done a terrible job at that. So part of this is going to be, hey, we need to find someone who people actually like instead of me to host a podcast. So one of the pieces of news is that I get to go on vacation sometimes, and then when I'm gone, what are you going to do?
I'm here for you.
Hey, there you go. All right. And so we're really excited about that. So folks, if you see Justin hosting the podcast, it means that I am fishing and leave me alone, or I am out waxing ducks in Arkansas, or I'm with my
rubbing your feet
somewhere, or rubbing my feet in the dirt in the grass. Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? Sometimes you do that feet rub thing, you're going to find a snake, or like in my case, like I told you before, maybe some dog poo in the backyard.
I'm telling you, you're gonna love it.
Speaking of vacations, we just had the anti-vacation of all times.
Ooh, yeah.
You and I traveled to the east, just about as far as you can go before you get wet, and we landed in the swamp, Washington, D.C. Now, we talked with some folks last week about the swamp. I think JP was on. And JP and I have been on the Legislative and Regulatory Committee for NATE for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And
the thing that always comes up, and it's an awesome quote by Don Doty, he said, hey, we want to meet with OSHA. And I'm like, are you nuts? Yeah, we don't want to meet with them. He says, if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. And we found that that's really true, that we can actually impact the lives of our climbers. We can impact our businesses by affecting policies that are taking place by people who really have great intentions but don't know what we do.
Yeah.
How'd you like DC?
You know what? I'm going to refrain from providing the truth and the answer on what I think about DC. Okay. But I do believe in the fundamental reasons why we go, right? I believe in educating our congressmen and congresswomen of our wonderful United States in such a way, because our industry is so small and they fail to remember how our small industry influences the world, and what our men and women do every single day impacts so many things. And so our concerns of workforce development, the broadband aspects of digital divide, the permitting processes that are lack thereof, the spectrum allocation, all of these specific topics we understand in our industry, but yet our government has a huge gap. They might be like, okay, let's throw some money at it.
Yeah.
Are they throwing
a lot of money?
Yeah. They can throw
money.
But they haven't got a clue how it's actually going to be deployed, how it's going to be spent. What does it take to actually spend that money appropriately? You and I, everybody listening to this podcast probably can understand this industry takes significantly more focus to develop human beings to do the work that we do, because we're working at height, we're working in DAS, we're working in strange locations, we're putting in fiber, we're putting on things,
technology,
it is
with a laptop, at elevation, physically capable, all that stuff. But one of the things that we talked about while we're out there, and our folks will greatly appreciate this. The folks that are throwing the money at the problem are saying, "Hey, fiber, fiber, fiber," and we like that answer, fiber, 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 but it's not the only answer.
Right.
And so we talk to people who are representing the Rocky Mountains and the swamps of Louisiana and the Cascades and the deserts of Arizona. And we talked to these folks. We said, so if you have sparse populations, is it better to run fiber everywhere and pay to run fiber everywhere and underground trench everywhere when it's like there's 4 people per square mile? Or is it just better to put a tower up and maybe just like bing them? Yeah.
Fixed wires.
And the light bulb poof went off. It's like, oh, you mean there's a better way than fiber? Well, there's a best way, and it's not always the same everywhere. Because if you're trenching in Berthoud, Colorado, it's way, 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 way different than trenching in Aspen or Grand Junction or
for sure
Leadville. And all of a sudden people looked at us and they're like, oh, you know what we're talking about. And we're like, no. I don't know what I'm talking about. But the folks who actually do the work, they will actually come in and tell you that if you have $1 and you spend it wisely, they probably put the dollar in the kettle and they care about how you spend it. And broadband might be a great answer versus fiber, fiber, fiber everywhere. So
100%.
We were advocates for the U.S. taxpayer, for our workforce, really for everybody. And it was well received, wasn't it?
Oh, it was very well received. Actually, there was only one, and I'll refrain from saying what state, California, that it was that had some pushback. But, every state that has had a high regard for bipartisan in the telecommunication, any one of the bills usually have a strong advocacy for bipartisan. But we still have outliers out there that just haven't seen the light. They haven't had enough seat time with one of us to be able to understand it. So that's why one of our big pushes is trying to get them to come do a site visit, come to a tower climb, come to a DAS site, come to a small cell site, come anywhere with us and understand what it takes to develop this network, to develop the actual capable human power behind all of what we do with these things right here. And so we're pushing, Jim. I know you pushed, I've pushed, and there's certain states and congressmen and congresswomen that, we just haven't got through yet. I'm never one to say that a defeat is even on the rise. So it's a couple more trips to DC. It's a couple more times to turn the head the other way from a negative and turn it into a positive.
We just haven't beat on the politicians long enough yet, right?
Yeah. We haven't kissed enough hands or shaken enough babies. I mean, kissed enough babies, shaken enough hands.
So, hey, join us again next week as Justin Miller comes back with us, and we're going to talk some more about virtual reality, social media, and weird stuff. Until then, this is Jim. Let's choose safety today. I am out.
Thanks for tuning in today, and join us every week. Tell your people to listen in and subscribe to OnRadio, the voice of everything wireless.